Namaskar. Well friends, let me welcome you all to Bhim Bhashya, my audio video podcast series about Dr Babasaheb Ambedkar. This audio video podcast series has 54 speeches on Dr Babasaheb Ambedkar, unraveling 25 different dimensions of his multifaceted genius. Well friends, this podcast series is focused on Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, his thoughts, his actions, his philosophy, and above all, his grand vision for the nation as a whole. This is what this podcast series is all about. If you like this podcast series, like it, share it, and subscribe to it. The theme of Bhim Bhashya, episode 1, is Dr. Ambedkar, a multifaceted intellectual colossus. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was undoubtedly one of the most illustrious sons of India. He was a multifaceted intellectual colossus. Just look at the broad range and versatility of his proficiency. Dr. Ambedkar was a knowledge seeker all his life. He was an economist, he was an educationist, he was a social reformer, he was economic administrator, sociologist, anthropologist, and a contemporary historian. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was a prolific writer. Perhaps no other mass leader in India has produced anywhere near what Dr. Ambedkar has produced. Dr. Ambedkar was a reflective thinker and an erudite scholar. He was a journalist, orator, statesman, and of course, a mass leader. Dr. Ambedkar was the principal architect of the Indian Constitution. He was one of the strongest champions of democracy and one of the greatest defenders of human rights in India. Dr. Ambedkar was an authority on comparative religion, and in the second half of his life, he became the greatest proponent of Buddhism. Friends, it is hard to believe that in one life, and that too spanning only 65 years, Dr. Ambedkar could achieve so much, making outstanding contribution in so many diverse fields and setting standards of excellence in each and every sphere. This is truly a hallmark of a genius. That is what Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was. Dr. Ambedkar was not only a multifaceted intellectual colossus, he was an epoch-making national leader. Dr. Ambedkar appeared on the Indian socio-economico-political scene in the early 1920s and remained at the forefront of the social, cultural, economic, and political transformation of the country during the closing decades of the British rule in India. After India became independent, Dr. Ambedkar played a uniquely significant role in laying the foundation of modern India till his Mahaparinirvan in December 1956. As a great social reformer, a valiant champion of human rights, and an emancipator of the downtrodden masses in India, Dr. Ambedkar dedicated all his life to awaken the social conscience of modern India. There were two sides to the problem of untouchability in our country. One, the so-called upper caste treating untouchables worse than cats and dogs. On the other hand, centuries of suppression and oppression had caused among the untouchables a huge collective inferiority complex. The untouchables were misled into believing that it was their destiny, it was their karma, it was caused by their own misdeeds in their previous birth. Dr. Ambedkar shook them up and awakened them. In effect, he prompted untouchables to ask themselves one question, and that question was, it may be in the interest of others to be your masters, but why should it be in your interest to be their slaves? This was a question which was not asked by the untouchables for 2000 long years before the emergence of Dr. Ambedkar. No untouchable had ever asked this question. It was only when the untouchables started asking this question to themselves that they became aware of their human rights, their right to live a life of dignity. Untouchables were finally awakening from their centuries-old silent slumber. This was nothing short of a cultural renaissance. It was Dr. Ambedkar who built safeguards of affirmative action. These were aimed at establishing a more equitable society capable of delivering social justice to millions of downtrodden. This led some people to characterize him as a leader of untouchables. This is grossly unfair to characterize Dr. Ambedkar as a leader of untouchables or Dalits, as is often done even in some responsible quarters. Dr. Ambedkar was not simply a leader of untouchables, not even only a leader of the oppressed and the depressed people in India. Dr. Ambedkar was a national leader, no less than Mahatma Gandhi, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, or Subhash Chandra Bose, and other great national leaders. Dr. Ambedkar's erudition and scholarship, his mass movements, his contribution in the executive and in the parliament clearly show that he was a patriot of sterling order. Who has said once, I am first Indian, I am Indian in the end, and nobody other than Indian in between? It was Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar who said this, none other than Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's brand of nationalism was somewhat different from the brand of nationalism of the leaders in the India's freedom struggle. Dr. Ambedkar's brand of nationalism was not merely confined to the transfer of power from the British to the Indian people. It was focused on a much, much broader notion of sustainable national reconstruction. That is to say, building a democratic republic. Dr. Ambedkar's vision was focused on creation of social equality and cultural integration in an age-old, caste-ridden, inherently unjust and discriminating society. It was Dr. Ambedkar's relentless pursuit of this grand vision for India that propels him to the level of an epoch-making statesman. Well, friends, in our country and in the Indian diaspora around the world, millions of downtrodden people have enormous affection or bhakti for Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. If this Bhima Bhakti is to be converted into Bhima Shakti, then the Bhakti would have to imbibe thoughts and philosophy of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's writings and speeches created by government of Maharashtra and by the central government is truly a treasure trove of Dr. Ambedkar's thoughts. Regrettably, however, much of the contents are beyond the comprehension of masses. I strongly believe that taking this treasure trove to the people of India in a manner that they would readily comprehend is something that is imperatively needed. It is indeed a need of the hour. And that is precisely the main objective of Bhim Bhashya, this audio video podcast series. Through this audio video podcast series, I am going to deliver 54 short speeches of 15 to 20 minutes each, covering as many as 25 different dimensions of this multifaceted genius that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was. The short speeches will be in three languages: Marathi, which is my mother tongue, Hindi and English. The idea is to present Dr. Ambedkar, the man, the mission and his vision. Why am I doing this? The reason is simple. This subject is very close to my heart. Well, friends, it is my firm conviction that although our biological parents have given us birth, the right to live human life with dignity has been bestowed on us by one and only Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Where I stand today is entirely because of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar and his inspiration. Although a first-generation learner inspired by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, 42 years ago, I went to the United States and got a PhD in economics. On completion of my advanced studies, declining all the lucrative jobs, within a week I returned to India. Why? Because Dr. Ambedkar had taught me that there is no substitute to mother, father and the motherland. During my nearly 50-year-long professional career, I have always worked in public sector, rarely if ever in private sector. As exhorted by Dr. Ambedkar, I held several positions of authority. These include spending 31 years in RBI, taking a voluntary retirement as the chief economist at the level of executive director. Advisor to IMF between 1998 to 2002, advisor to government of Ethiopia and Afghanistan, vice chancellor of Pune University between the years 2006 to 2009, member planning commission between the years 2009 to 2014, member of National Advisory Council chaired by Sonia Gandhi between the years 2010 to 2014, where I was equivalent to Union Minister of State or Deputy Chief Minister at a state level. And finally, President nominated Member of Parliament, Member of Rajya Sabha during the years 2016 to 2022. Please note that unlike most others, I was the only Member of Parliament not affiliated to any political party. In all these positions, I struggled within the system for empowerment of the underprivileged, exactly as was envisioned by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Am I qualified to deliver this short speeches series? Well, certainly I am. Over the years, I have written or edited as many as 21 books on Dr. Ambedkar in Marathi, Hindi and English. As a matter of fact, you can see all my books on Dr. Ambedkar. These are all my 21 books on Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, including these two. I wrote 41 books altogether, but out of 41 books, as many as 21 have been written or edited are on Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. And these are not booklets, mind you. These are volumes. Together they cover not less than 7,000 pages. If you wish to get an idea, an insight into the glorious legacy of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, his thoughts, his actions, his philosophy, his vision, please see and listen to Bhim Bhashya, my audio-video podcast series of 54 short speeches covering 25 dimensions of Dr. Ambedkar's multifaceted genius. In our next episode, that is episode 2, I propose to present Dr. Ambedkar as a scholar par excellence. If you like this podcast, please like it, share it, and subscribe to it. Thank you and dhanyavad. So long until we meet again real soon. Namaskar.